I had written Apurva, like which I did last year. I'd written in 2009, and in 2011, a studio signed me, and at that time, a star was supposed to do a film. She was also signed, and in 2011, I thought that my life is going to change. And suddenly, one fine day, I got a call and saying that there's a new executive who's joined the studio, and the executive says that it's a great story. It will get you a lot of awards, but it will not get you money. And my film was dropped. I had signed the film. The actor was on board, and the film did not take off. It was actually Apurva, as it's a female centric film, and at that time hardly any films were being made on female centric films, so it did not take off. And that was not the only studio. I almost so I have a contract from at least 4 different production houses and producers and studios on Apurva, and they had signed and they have got actors on board, and it did not take off. I got Brij Mohan Amar Rahe, and that was again a challenge. It was like a challenge because it was again a very shoestring budget, and I had like a mammoth of a production. It was we were supposed to shoot in 63 different locations in Delhi, and at a budget of 1 crore. So it was a huge challenge, and I said this is a do and die situation. There is no other way. So I'd been around for quite some time, so I took favors from everybody, from my DOP, in fact from all HODs. I just took favors. I said that just help me out this time. I can't even imagine that how much I've paid my sound designer. And Mr. Subhash Sahu, he was my sound designer, and he helped me out. It was a throwaway price for him. वो सोच भी नहीं सकते कि इतना उनको कम मिल सकता था, पर उन्होंने किया. My DOP Pooja Gupte, she was like hardly any money she got, and she shot the film, and she did a fantastic job. And in the entire film, I did not put the camera on tripod. It was on her shoulder. So I would tell her that you have actually put the film on your shoulders. And everyone, like all my costume designer Darshan, he's an old friend. He did me a favor. So everybody, all my friends, whoever I had worked with, they did me a favor. Drishyam films, they line produced for me. So Raghav Gupta, he's the one who was I had gotten him as a clap boy in Mickey Virus. I was producing that film, and he did me a favor. He said that, sir, I will line produce your film, and I will not charge a rupee. And he did not charge a rupee for the entire line production. So I'm like hugely indebted to all these guys. They made it happen. My associate director, he was getting paid huge amounts, and he said, I will work for you, so don't worry about it. So he took a pay cut. All my other assistants took a pay cut. Everybody took a pay cut. Like if I look at it, that film on paper would have been around 4 crores, and we managed to finish it in 1.25 crores. So everybody, all of them like did a huge favor to me. I made a lot of friends, and I feel friends you make while you're struggling, they're the ones they will be with you for life. So there's a very dear friend of mine called Kuldeep. He's a writer. He's now making a film, his first film. He's a very dear friend. Anku Pandey, she's a producer. She just produced Fighter. Anku and Raman, they became my very good friends. So I earned a lot of friendships. Subhash Sahu, he's a very dear friend of mine. In fact, I was talking to him like 20 minutes back. So all these people, they have stood by me. Like and rock solid they've stood by me. These are friends. Normally you say that in your industry you don't make friends. That is such a false notion. I've made some great friends, and what they have done for me, I can't ever repay them. So I did Raspberry with Ding and Applause, and when it was pitched to me, I was told that it will be a coming of age story of a young boy who was madly in love with his English teacher. And I shot that, and we edited that, and we finished the series, and we delivered it to Applause. But I got to know that Ding and Applause were re-editing it, and I was surprised to know that, because there was no reason for them to edit it, because I've already delivered the finished product. And I kept calling up Ding and Applause, and I was told that no, they're just they're just sharpening the edit. There's nothing else which is happening. And I said that please show me the series, and I was not shown the series. I saw the series when it was released, and when it was released in April or May 2020. And when I saw the first episode, I was actually in for a shock, because they had taken off the coming of age portion from the first couple of first 3 episodes. So it just remained like there was only such portions which the story was that the kid was coming of age, and he was in doldrums, and he was in dilemma. And the beginning portions were very important, because they were the formative portions of the series, and they were not there. So by the time the story picks up, it's almost the 4th episode. But in the first 3 episodes, you feel that it is just a sleaze fest, and that was not something which was there in my edit. My edit was very different. It was color corrected differently. It was edited differently. It was a challenging series, that there was a certain element in the series which could go wrong, and unfortunately it went wrong. But then I swore from that day onwards, I'm never going to touch anything which has anything to do with sex or sleaze. I will not do it, because what comes out is not in your hands. So I said no, I'm not gonna do anything like. And I kept getting a lot of offers after Raspberry, and I said no, there's something I'm not going to touch. There was another series which was just coming out called Gone Game, and Gone Game did wonders, because that was one of its kind at that time. It was purely shot from the confines of my house. I did not meet any of the crew, because it was being shot during the first wave of COVID, and so I was so Bodhi Tree. I'd worked with them long time back in 2009 and 10. When I was looking for work, I had done a couple of episodes, and I realized I can never do television. Those were the only 2 episodes I ever did in my life. So Bodhi Tree called me, and they said, we have to make a series within 3 months. We have to write and deliver it. Write, shoot, deliver. And so there was my colleague Aisha Sayyed. She's a co-writer on Gone Game. So both of us, we started writing, and so we wrote through Zoom. We shot the entire series through Zoom. So there were I had two monitors in front of me. One was my laptop and one was my iPad. And I would what we did was we sent the cameras to the actor's place, and the criteria for casting was not that they could act. The criteria was if they had good Wi-Fi at their homes. So there's an actor. She's a close friend of mine, and Ahana Kumbra. So she was selected, and the first thing I asked was, do you have Wi-Fi? And she said, no, I do not have a Wi-Fi. And I said, I'm so sorry, we will not be able to shoot with you. And we did not shoot with her, and she's like, till today she's pissed off with me. that I did not shoot Gone Game with her. And thank goodness Gone Game was at that time, because it saved me from Raspberry. Most of the times I feel the stories come from my personal experiences, or something which I have read in newspaper, something which has a story which is a human interest story which appeals me. So it's something which which comes to me. I don't know. That's why there are too many stories which I've read at times, when I've heard at times, and coming basically I take a piece of life and life around me, and that is what, like, even in Hordang, when I was growing up, I knew a guy who was called Daddu, and he used to stay in road number 11. I used to stay in road number 10B in Patna. He used to stay in road number 11, and he was brainwashed, by people from his own community. He was brainwashed by people from his own college, and he was ready to go and self-immolate himself. So I've seen that, and that is, I did not understand at that time what was happening, but later I figured out what the politics is, and I took cue from that, and I wrote Hurdam. It comes from a personal experience. And way back in 94, 95, I was traveling in a train. I was studying in Pune, and I was staying in Patna. So I got into Bombay Janta Express at 11:30 in the night, and I slept off in the train. When I woke up in the morning, I realized that the next coach, which was an AC coach, I was sleeping in the sleeper coach. I was traveling in the sleeper coach. It was robbed by some 25-30 dacoits, and I got down and I saw these passengers who were like so traumatized, and they were really scared. And I saw that, and it remained, that incident remained with me for a very long time. And in 2016, I think I was traveling from Mumbai to Delhi to shoot Brij Mohan, and I went by train. And while I was traveling by train, this entire thing, came back to me. That story came back to me, and I said I must write it. So I finished shooting Brij Mohan, and I came down and I wrote the 2-pager. But at that time I realized that there's so much of action, and the kind of action which I wanted to do, I realized nobody's going to do it. Because I just finished Brij Mohan. That Brij Mohan was a really small film, and action and such a huge film, it was impossible for me to like it. I've been around for quite some time, so I knew that immediately nobody's going to do it, and I forgot about it. I completely forgot about the fact that I had written a 2-pager. There's a friend of mine called Alia Karmali. She knew about the story because she's a friend, and I keep discussing stories with her. So she joined Gunit Sikha in 2019, and she came and she asked me, what are you doing with that action story of yours? I said, which action story? I don't remember any action story which I had written. Then she said, your train story. I said, oh yes, of course there is, but who's going to do it? Nobody's going to do it. And she said, no, Sikha is looking to do an action story. I said, fine, but this is a very different kind of an action story. This is a very visceral, raw, gritty, very very brutal. She said, why don't you meet? And Guneet and I, we've known each other for 10-12 years. So I met Guneet, and I was telling her, listen, it's a very difficult film. I narrated her the story, and she loved the story and said, we must do it. I said, it's a very difficult film. It's not an easy film to do. It's this kind of an action. I'm not looking at the action which we are doing in India. And she said, if it's difficult, let's do now. Yes, and that's how it started. And she said, no, we must do this film. We must do this film. And that's when I started writing the story. And I finished writing the first draft. Because I'd never done action, so what I did was I wrote down the entire action piece. And the script was very cumbersome, and it was very tedious to read. Very tedious to read, because every action which you see in the film, I'd written it down. So then Guneet and I, we went to meet Karan, And Karan said, why don't you send me the script, because he's a reader. Karan reads scripts. So I said, I can send you the script, but after 10 pages you will not read it, because it is very tedious to read, because there is only description of action. So he said, okay, why don't you narrate me the story. So I narrated him the story, and at midpoint he stopped me. He said, I've understood your film, I'm doing a film. And he was sitting a little far away, so I thought that I did not hear it properly. So I looked at Gunit, and Gunit looked at me, and she said, but you don't want to listen to the entire story. He said, no, I figured what your story is. I know what film you want to make. Let's make that film. And it just started like that. So there is no twist and turn, there is no pitching. I didn't have to go back and wait for 4 months to hear any news. It just started. I'm so thankful to Dharma to have faith in the film and faith in us as a whole team to make this film.